Hey, everybody. So if any of you tuned in to the UFC fight over the weekend that was headlined by Paul Felder and Rafael dos Anjos, you obviously know about the scoring controversy, right? Chris Lee gave rounds 2, 3, and 4 to Paul Felder. Now, what I'm going to do here is just I'm going to walk you through each. At first, I thought that this was like the most egregious thing I'd ever heard. Like watching the fight, and this is sometimes the benefit of going back and watching fights, right? Like, okay, round 1 was definitively Rafael dos Anjos'. Like, Paul Felder, yes, he was having success with the striking, but so was Rafael dos Anjos, particularly with his power side. That left kick that he was ripping to the body, his left hand was working really well. He was able to push the fight up against the cage, put it where he wanted, and land the takedowns, right? Now, the second round, in my opinion, I thought it was the closest round of the fight, man. And if also, like, I know a lot of people are pissed off at Chris Lee about this, but if you look at the number, and I want to make it perfectly, I want to make it perfectly clear. I thought Rafael dos Anjos definitively won the fight, no doubt. But the second round, I'm telling you, man, if you go back and I just rewatched the fight like literally 20 minutes ago. The second round, Paul Felder was doing a good job controlling the middle of the octagon, at least for the first like minute or so, minute and a half of the round, right? And then when Rafael dos Anjos did push Felder up against the cage, even when he was able to land takedowns, Paul Felder was able to work his way back up to his feet. He was doing some work in the clinch. He was landing shots. I mean, he outlanded dos Anjos in the second round, and I know that dos Anjos was controlling where the fight took place, but he wasn't doing a ton with it. And like I said, everything that he did was well defended. I thought Felder controlled the striking exchanges. Would I have given the round to Paul Felder? No, probably not. If I was scoring it, I don't think I would have. But I don't think the second round is as egregious as people are making it out to be, right? So I'll give Chris Lee a pass on that one. It's hard for me to say. I can see how you can give it to him, but I can kind of understand where he's coming from. Now the third, I don't know how you gave this one to Paul Felder. Paul, yeah, maybe he did some striking and stuff, but so did RDA, and he landed that big takedown towards the end of the third round, and it was pretty much, that round was more of RDA imposing his will on Felder, and Felder not being able to stop it, right? Felder got pushed up against the cage much more frequently. And then you get to the fourth round. So, I mean, Chris Lee, absolutely, he got the fight wrong, and he got the third round wrong. Like, he definitely got that one wrong. I thought the second round was the closest of the fight. The fourth, a little bit less so. But Felder was still competitive, man. I still thought that he was winning the striking exchanges. And, Felder even landed a takedown of his own. Now, granted, RDA was able to defend it and end the round on top. Again, I thought RDA won the fourth round. But again, if you look at, like, one of the things, too, that I think was really hurting Paul in maybe one of the reasons why this was a close fight, guys. Don't get me wrong. Like, RDA won definitively, in my opinion, but it was still a competitive fight. And I think one of the reasons people are thinking it wasn't competitive is because Paul Felder doesn't utilize a lot of head movement, right? He's very stand in front of you and throw the combos, and he kind of eats it. You know what I mean? RDA moves his head much more. So I think it's harder to tell when Paul's landing effectively. And every time that RDA would land something, it was always snapping the head back of Paul Felder, right? So that makes a difference, right? Like, that's a visual, like, that sticks with you when a guy's getting his head snapped back, whereas RDA was getting tagged with stuff that Paul was throwing, but he wasn't really, he kind of rolls with things, and he uses footwork and head movement a little bit better than Paul, in my opinion. And it made it seem not so impactful, but don't get it twisted. Paul was landing. Like, look at RDA's face. RDA got in a fucking fight. If you look at his face after that, he got in a fight. So I thought the fourth round, and I just watched it 20 minutes ago, and this is what I mean. Things are already slipping, right? But the fourth round, I thought was relatively competitive, but I still think you give it to RDA. Like I said, I think the second round was the closest of the fight. At the very least, I still think, even with that being said, though, like, even if you do, and I don't agree with this, I don't, but maybe two. Maybe I could, if you were watching the fight, and I think you could make a real argument that he maybe won two. Paul Felder. But there's no way that he won rounds 2, 3, and 4. And there's no way that Paul Felder won the fight as a whole. Like, and 1 and 5 were the most clear, like, especially 5 was the most dominant for RDA, I thought. But 1 was clearly RDA's. 2 was the most controversial. 3, definitely RDA's. I know there wasn't a lot going on, and yeah, maybe Paul outstruck him, but RDA imposed his will, undoubtedly. That was like the decisive round for me, round 3. Round 4, like I said, less competitive than round 2. I still thought RDA won, but Paul still finding success. Like I said, landed that takedown of his own. So, man, I was originally going to like come in here and tear Chris Lee apart, and I was like, before I do this, I have to go back and watch it. So don't get look. You're judging a fucking main event. Like, you have to get this right, and it's not hard to watch that fight and realize who won, right? But I don't know if I want to say this is a defense of him, but it's just also like fighting is subjective, and judging is like your interpretation of what's happening in a fight and what's important is going to be subjective, right? There's no getting around it. It's a part of MMA. But when you're talking about a main event and you're talking about a guy who's a veteran in the sport and who's dropping down to 155 and who's trying to make a title run, you can't give that fight to Paul Felder. This can't be happening in main events. This was a mistake. He picked the wrong winner. It was a split decision and it should have been unanimous. I'm not saying he couldn't have gave rounds 2 and 4 to Felder if he wanted to, but as a whole, RDA has to win that fight. So what this has led me to, though, is I think judging is one of the real problems that we have in MMA right now. And I think what I'm going to start doing is after the cards is maybe compiling like a list of the judges and how they did judging the fights that night and try to give them a grade and be like, this is where I think they did this. And again, it's subjective. I'm not saying my opinion is going to be right, but I think we need to start putting some pressure on these judges to get, especially big fights like this, right. Like I said, I'll give you rounds 2 and 3 if you're Chris, or 2 and 4 if you're Chris Lee. But 1, 3, and 5, fuck no. No way in hell does RDA not win round 3, right? 2 and 4, and I don't even think 2 and 4 to be. I don't know, but no way he won round 3. So RDA was a clear winner of the fight. Should have been announced that way, and judges have to be more responsible in situations like this, especially in big fights, especially when people are watching. People don't want to see that shit. People want to see the right guy win the fight, and it's important for their careers, especially, like I said, a monument, like a huge fight like this one. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to me rant. Have a good one. Bye-bye.